Today on Inside Utah Politics, a bill decades in the making signed into law. Lawmakers, community advocates, religious leaders, and more packing into the Capitol Rotunda to witness the governor sign an historic hate crimes bill. Plus, thousands of Utahns who fell into the Medicaid coverage gap are now eligible for benefits. But some are upset that it's not what the voters approved. Our panel debates the issue. Good Sunday morning, and thanks so much for joining us for Inside Utah Politics. I'm Glenn Mills. Utah lawmakers have been debating enhanced penalties for hate crimes for years. It fell short session after session, but this year it happened. On Tuesday, Governor Gary Herbert signed Senate Bill 103 into law. The bill creates an enhanced penalty for those convicted of targeting a victim based on race, religion, sexual orientation, military service, status as a first responder, political expression, and a number of other protected categories. Senator Daniel Thatcher is the bill's sponsor, and former Representative David Litvak worked on the issue in the early 2000s. Gentlemen, so great to have you with us. Thanks so much for being here for Inside Utah Politics.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
What an incredible ceremony on Tuesday, and an incredible moment in state history. Before we get into some of the other things, I'd like to know what was going through your minds as you saw the governor put his signature to that bill. Senator, let's start with you.
The first was, thank goodness I could start working on some other issues.
Yeah, this one's been taking up some time over the last couple of years, right?
It has. It's been an absolute labor of love. It has been. When I started on the issue, for me, it was just about criminal justice policy. It was good, sound criminal justice policy. I had no idea how personal it would become, or how much this bill would end up meaning to me. But over the years, this is one of the most important bills I will ever carry.
David, you started carrying this in the early 2000s.
That's correct.
That's a long time ago. What did you think as you saw the governor put his signature on?
Culmination of a lot of efforts. Both former legislators, myself, the late Senator Pete Suazo, Senator Alicia Suazo, and even before them, former Representative Frank Pignanelli, who first brought this issue before the state in the early 1990s. A culmination of a lot of effort in the community. So many people have worked so tirelessly on this issue over the years, and there was a great sense of celebration and also a great sense of pride that we have made a tremendous amount of progress to get to this point.
That's the thing, the common theme you hear over and over again is you really can't even stop to recognize everyone adequately for their effort in this over the decades. Let's kind of talk about how the conversation changed over time and what some of the obstacles were. Back when you were running the bill, what were the main obstacles that were standing in the way?
Well, you know, the same obstacle that those before me faced. To be very blunt, it was about two words: sexual orientation. All of us who had sponsored the bill in the past were told very clearly that if we left sexual orientation out of the bill, that the bill would pass. But we know none of us could do that. We knew we couldn't do that. We knew this had to be inclusive, what the senator did. But a lot of progress has been made, and a lot of dialogue both at the legislature and in our community had to happen over the years to get us to this point.
As I sit here and hear that kind of narrows down to exactly the same challenges you faced in the last couple of years.
Oh, yes. Yes. But one of the things that we see is it just sometimes takes time. As I mentioned on Tuesday when the bill was signed, 4 years ago I was not supportive of this legislation. When Steve Urquhart brought the bill forward, he was so certain, even though he was taking it to a hostile committee where there were only 3 votes that he knew he had and 4 votes that he didn't think he had, he was so certain that I wouldn't be supportive of this legislation. He didn't even sit down to talk to me about the bill.
And then a couple years later, you're carrying it across the finish line.
Well, actually, no, it was that same year as it was coming to my committee. I wanted to do my diligence, so I dug into the bill so that I could, appropriately argue it. And what I found as I studied the bill was this is good law. This makes perfect sense. The things that people were opposed to aren't in this bill. The idea of unequal protection is not part of this bill. Everyone has a race, everyone has a religion. This bill is constitutionally sound. It is good law, but more than that, The whole reason that government exists, right, according to the Declaration of Independence, is to preserve the God-given rights of life and liberty and the right to pursue happiness. And the right to worship is so fundamentally core to what it is to be American that failure to protect that, in my opinion, is a failure for the government to do their job. And as soon as I got that, it was like night and day, and I couldn't stop fighting until we won.
And you're not the only one that said that. The House sponsor, Lee Perry, said the exact same thing. It took a change of heart to get him on board. Yep. Did you witness that over time? Did you see the change of heart happen within people?
I think we all witnessed it on Tuesday as the governor signing it and the comments that were made. You know, it's sad that we need legislation like this, you know, that we need protection from hate, from violence, from physical attacks, from desecration of places of worship. It's sad that we need that, and the ongoing battle is the dialogue and the changing of hearts, but we witnessed that that's possible, right? We saw that culminate on Tuesday. Individuals that opposed the bill when I was running it in the early 2000s, we had great debate about it. And even the year that we passed the model legislation in the House and only to have it returned by the Senate the next day, some of those same individuals are there, and they supported the bill this year. There's been change of heart, there's been change in policy, and that's what allowed us to get to this point.
Interesting point made by one of your colleagues and one of your former colleagues, Representative Patrice Arent. She made note of that as just how respectful the debate was on the House floor this time around.
I have never seen anything like that before. I will tell you right now, I've seen a vote or two flip on the floor, but would you agree it's rare?
Absolutely.
It's rare for someone to change their vote. Usually we have a pretty good idea of where we are. We've heard from our constituents, we've heard from subject matter experts. We have a pretty good idea of where we are. Sometimes people will flip on the floor, but never something like this. And you know, Lee mentioned we had 38 votes. We didn't. We had 36. Walking onto the House floor, we had 36 solid yeses, 22 absolutely nots, and a handful of, I don't know, we'll see.
And the final vote was?
And the final vote, we had 12 noes.
Oh.
And there's a picture. There's a picture that I will send you of our faces as those vote totals came back that David Damption, the treasurer, took. And you can see me choking up with emotion because finally it's passed. And Representative Perry is just looking in complete stunned shock as we got all of the votes but 12.
You brought up Senator Eric Art, who kind of passed the torch to you. His last go around, he became very frustrated with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints stepping in. He said they basically put an end to the bill. They come out this year saying, we are not going to oppose this. How much of an impact did that have?
Well, I think the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the position they had this year was very helpful. But I do want to go back to history, and a lot of people don't remember or can't recall that in 2004, when we passed the model legislation out of the House to have it returned by the Senate the next day, they had that same position, that they did not oppose it, and we had the list in there with sexual orientation, race, religion, ethnicity. And so do I think that the position this year by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints had an impact? Huge impact. But that wasn't the only thing that needed to change, right? There were a lot of hearts, there was a lot of conversation that needed to happen. There was a lot of policy. When I was running the legislation, same-sex marriage had not been decided. Non-discrimination had not been decided. Think of what we have accomplished between 2006, the last time I ran it, to now. A lot of those barriers had to be broken down.
And we should mention that you did pass a bill, I believe it was in 2006, but prosecutors have complained since that it didn't have the teeth to move forward. So I have about a minute left. Let's talk about the need. We saw the Lopez family sitting in the audience as that bill was signed. Talk about how this can make changes in our community.
Well, every time I go to synagogue, and Representative Arent and I attend the same synagogue, she talked about this, there's police officers there. Ever since Pittsburgh, the impact of hate crimes is felt, right? This is what the legislation's about. What this legislation does, it affirms who I am, who my family is, who Senator Thatcher is, who Troy Williams is, who Jackie Biskupski is, who we are as individuals. And it provides a level of protection in the law that if, God forbid, one of us is singled out or our community is singled out because of who we are, that individual can be held accountable not just for what they do to me or my synagogue, but the impact on the broader Jewish community. And that is a very validating feeling and a very important feeling in how we create a community that is inclusive, respectful, and that's what we're after.
Okay, I have about 15 seconds left. Any final thoughts?
Just, you know, while it was great to have the LDS Church clarify their position, we still had a ton of work to do after that. I don't think they were the only challenge, but I think the important thing to take away is even look at the changes from the Senate, when the Senate passed it to the House, versus the concurrence vote when it came back.
Yeah, big difference.
We had
there.
all but 3 of the votes
true.
yes, and so sometimes it just takes time.
And it was only 18 on the vote that sent it over to the,
Correct.
To the House. Very good
Correct.
point. Gentlemen, such a great conversation. Congratulations to the efforts from both of you. Still to come, talk about repealing Obamacare picking up steam once again in Washington, D.C. Is there a better way? Our panel will weigh in. But first, we hit Equality Pay Day during the week. We check in with our Washington, D.C. Bureau for a look into the gender wage gap. Stay with us.